Good afternoon, everyone. Satnam. Welcome to another episode of Revealing the Diamond with Tiaga Prem. Good afternoon, Tiaga Prem.
Satnam, good to see you.
My name is Richard. Happy to have you guys again on the podcast for another conscious conversation. I'm really excited about today's topic. We've got Elevate and Create.
Yeah, that's one that I'm really excited about, and it's a really good topic because we just both came back, my partner and I, from men's camp and ladies camp, where you're feeling really, I feel like when you go away to something like that, like a spiritual retreat or something, you gain a lot of insight about like, what are we doing and what is the direction and what's working and what could we do more of and that sort of thing. And definitely like creativity is a massive part of why we're here doing what we do. We're both artists in our own way, you know. It's not necessarily that we're painting, but we definitely have eclectic tastes, and we apply everything that we do is through the lens of creativity, whether it's parenting or being entrepreneurs or our love for music. And I like to draw, and and SJ makes all of the spaces she goes into really beautiful, and so it's a big part of our lives. And it wasn't until I started doing the Kundalini yoga that I really started to look at creativity as being a spiritual practice. And it's not that I didn't think of it that way before. I think I did, but I didn't think of it in a way where it was like, hold it in your hand, here's the connection. Or like, what if you took some of the like religious practices that we do in some of these traditions of yoga, which you see a lot of it, the Om symbol and multiple gods and turbans and bowing to the book. And I mean, all of this stuff on the surface can appear as religious. And what I'm interested in is replacing sort of the old way of looking at religion with creativity. And that's why we use the word Aquarian. Like, to me, Aquarian person is a person that is making an effort to create in everything they do, like to bring beauty into the world or to make people think. And isn't that what we love about art? You know, you want to go and see paintings by Picasso because you want to see like, oh, he saw the world a little different than I did. Oh, that's kind of cool. And then you think of your own way to apply yourself, as an artist. And that's what we need, rather than getting caught up in old ideas or getting caught up in your day-to-day where you're really too busy. I'm treating busy as a swear word now. Because people are always like, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, me too. I'm so busy. And it's a sickness, man. It's like, we're all busy. Hello, this is the times we live in. And it's going to take us a little more effort and a little more grit to show up and do things to make the world better for all of us. And better doesn't just mean like more convenient. It means more beautiful, or to cultivate more empathy in the times of the sociopath, or whatever it might be. So creativity is a massive part of it. And if anybody said like, oh, are you religious, we often say, my partner and I, that we're Aquarians. And they say, what does that mean? And we say, well, it's like art as life, and it's a sustainable art as life, because we're not super smashed on wine, unable to pay our bills because we're just like, but we're making great paintings. Like, we're harnessing that creative energy to use it as service and to use it as healing, and still do the things we love, like go to the rock show, or go into the art exhibit, or go. I mean, those are amazing parts of life that somehow like drugs and alcohol sort of sneak in as like, well, you can't really enjoy the art opening unless you drink a whole bunch of wine. And it's like, well, actually, if you can do some of these techniques to really get clear, you could be the most weird and eccentric person in the room and have a better means of dealing with all of your problems so that you don't blow your brains out in 10 years because you can't handle the pressure anymore. I mean, you hear crazy stories about artists dealing with that, and that's the beauty of Kundalini Yoga. It's art as religion.
I was reading your Instagram post today, and you said something about breaking the rules. Is that creative to you?
Yeah, I think that I've always looked up to people who just do their own thing, and they don't really care about like what are the expectations of society. And it's been an interesting journey for me in yoga because, you know, I came to yoga really dealing with some things in my life with in recovery at the beginning of my journey and leaving drugs behind. And then years later, I sort of slipped into using alcohol, and then I started practicing yoga again to kind of get, not again, I was still practicing yoga, but it was another thing in my life that I had to let go of, and so I was using yoga and spirituality to do that. But I think what I'm noticing now is I've really dealt with some pretty hefty strongholds in my life. And so now I have all of this freedom to kind of move freely in the practice, where for a long time, I would say like 15 years of my life doing this practice, I kept thinking like, it has to be in a certain way. And if it isn't in this like rigid way of practice, then I'm going to go back to old patterns. And there's probably some truth to that. So I don't want to take anybody off their path by saying like, oh yeah, just do whatever you want. But I do want to say that I think that the way that the practice works is that you sort of use the structure at first to get some abilities to navigate your purpose. But then as you start to like step into it and you're like, oh wow, this is like the best version of me. Like, you know, I went to see the punk band Rancid, who I loved when I was a younger guy, and I went to see them the other night, and I was with a friend who's getting sober now, and he's 3 weeks in and really excited to like quit drinking and stuff. And like, I was standing there watching this band that I loved when I was a kid and just surrounded by the energy. And I was standing there and watching people stand in this insane lineup to get beer. Like, I was just like, this is nuts. Like, they're going to stand there for an hour of the show, and then they're going to have to walk through this crowd of people, spill beer all over themselves, drink it, and then go, oh, now I have to do it again. And I'm not judging it. If you love doing that, then go ahead and do that. But I just was standing there thinking, like, this is amazing. Like, I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing. I'm here seeing a band that I love who's talking about free speech and how we all need to support one another and playing really loud rock and roll. And I'm going to come out of this place supporting my friend who's getting sober. And I'm going to come out of this place feeling like I just went to a yoga class, because I'm able to see the oneness in all of it. I'm not there hurting myself. I'm not there hurting others. I'm there as a form of service at a punk rock show. It's the best thing there is, you know? And so, yeah, you have to just like ignore the norm. I was listening to this guy, John Doe. He played in a band called X. I was at my sister's over the weekend, so I had to commute quite a bit back and forth. So I was in my car listening to podcasts galore, which is what I do. And he was saying, like, you know, punk rock music, I thought of this because it relates to the Aquarian and creativity. He said punk isn't a tempo, nor is it a style of music. It's a mind state. And the mind state is, make whatever the hell you want and don't let anybody tell you otherwise, you know? And I love that. That resonates with me. And I think, like, what if you apply that to the spiritual path, you know? And that's why I think of myself like, I am a Sikh, and I am a Buddhist, and I am an atheist, and I am a punk rocker, and I am an artist, and I am a feminist, and I'm all of these things. And the reason I'm all of them is because there's truth in all of them. And you don't have to just pick this one thing, because you close yourself off to so much of what's there. And then you create a container where the nerves are strong enough and the glands are functioning properly, and you do the meditation so your mind is clear, so nobody's going to knock you off your path. Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do this because so-and-so thought. Like, you just become this bright, radiant version of you, and that's what the world needs you to be. And it's so easy to get put off from that when you think like, oh, well, maybe if I went into this career, then I would have more money and then I would be happier. Or maybe if I did, I mean, if there's truth to that, then just go ahead and do it and stop yipping about it. But if it's just like, you know, something that is there that there's no grounds to it, you know exactly who you are and you're letting the world around you define you, it's like, yeah, break those rules. Break all of the rules that are holding you back. And if there's rules in place that are allowing you to show up as the best version of you, then keep following them. They're useful, you know.
I think it's a great segue into something that I've been thinking about a lot for the last 1 or 2 years. Can't really put a timeline on it. I definitely read a book by Osho. I think it was called Creativity. And he just made it really clear that creativity and respect are different paths. If you're chasing respect, you're really not doing anything too creative. You're trying to please what's already been done. It's kind of like the difference between real creative art versus a technician who's really just trying to do what's been done to recreate rather than something very original. And if you go the path of a truly artistic person who's channeling, who's creating out of their soul and their uniqueness, and they produce something that's never been seen, well, no one can really respect that because it's never been seen, and so people don't know how to react to that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and people are often resistant to it. There's a saying, and I may not get it right, but one of these sayings is something to the effect of like a prophet is never respected in their hometown, something like that. Yeah. And it's like, when you're charting new territory, people around you are going to be like, well, that'll never work.
Exactly.
You won't be able to do that, or that doesn't make sense, or that's not the way we do it, or that, you know, whatever it might be. But some of the greatest artists and musicians that we love and respect, like, they just don't listen to that. And here's the thing. It's like, you hear a lot of people say like, oh, I don't care what people think, and that's great. But I've found in my life that I say that, but I needed a practice so I could live that, you know, because the pressure is too much. I couldn't take the pressure. And that's why, and a lot of people, that's where the addictions come from. It's like, oh, I just need to keep up being myself, and I feel kind of awkward and like a fraud, and I don't quite fit in, and I still feel like a nerdy 13-year-old who doesn't know who they are and where they stand. So if I drink all of this alcohol or whatever your trip is, you know, then I can be that. I mean, that's what it was for me. I'm like, woo! If I just get loose a little here, I can be the greatest, most entertaining person in the room. And then I got to put the pieces together the next day. Okay, well, then I don't want to do that anymore because it's causing too much pain. So I'll just do all of these yoga asanas and go to bed super early and get up super early. And then at least if I do that, I won't have any more pain. Well, that doesn't work either, because there's this part of me going like, hey, we got to get out there. We love music. We love the crowd. We love the... And it's a real challenge to do one or the other. You know, you need something to support you in order to do that. In my experience, you know, maybe you are somebody who's strong enough who can just be themselves all the time without any kind of building a structure to support that. Or also, I think that structure is also the part where, as we called this podcast, elevate and create. So that means that not only are you being creative, but you're making creativity and service something that goes together. And I think that that's important. And I think that in order to do that, you need to build, in my experience, you need a practice to clear away the bullshit. To clear away the BS, actually, because BS is your belief systems and your bullshit. You know, because we got all this stuff that we're hanging on to. We got all these reasons that we can't do this and you can't. And it's coming at you from everywhere. It's coming at you from internal affairs, and it's coming at you from external affairs. You know, it's like, it's a lot to manage. But ultimately, in this life, it's your job as a human to not waste this opportunity to share your gifts and talents with the world. And if you listen to, it's kind of like this, we got this weird idea that everything needs to be a performance or something. And it's like, it doesn't need to be a performance. Like, what if you just make stuff because it brings you joy? And who gives a shit if people like it or not? You know, like, how much beauty gets withheld by people who feel like they don't have any value to what they're going to share because it won't be as good as the expectations of society. What a crock, man. You know,
the memory is just really short of that. Everything that exists today was not around just a few decades ago. Whether it's music, whether it's technology, whether it's lifestyle design, it's all been creative. Once we adopt it, you forget that at once it was new, it was different. And I think we have to kind of get back to that fearlessness to be creative. I mean, it's creativity which pushes the human race further and further to take risk, to take chance. We need this.
Yeah, definitely we need it. I mean, I always go back to parenting, but because that's my reality and how I see the world. It's like, there are so many facets to our beautiful daughter, and we want to embrace all of them. Like, she likes to play video games, so she can do some of that. She likes to be in the garden, so she can do some of that. She likes to paint, so she can do some of that. She likes to do all of these different activities, and we make space for her to do them so that she can be creative within them without buying into the structures of, okay, well, you're a girl, and so you have to do it this way, or you're like, whatever she likes, you know? And she likes Ninja Turtles and princesses and playing in nature and doing yoga and listening to the Ramones. And there's just like so many amazing things that you can experience in this life. And we limit ourselves by saying, I'm a this and you're a that. And it causes this incredibly expansive multiverse that we live in to just be this like little tiny strip of stiff, stagnant reality. And it's just like, who cares? And then the danger of that is, if you have a lot of pain and suffering in your life and you don't know how to manage it, and you start looking at things through this narrow vision, then you find that it's easy to just hurt other people. I'm in pain anyway, so I might as well hurt others. And then you'll find that the more creativity you bring into your life, the easier it is to have an outlet to manage that pain.
So true.
You know, it's like, I've been in times in my life where I felt really depressed, you know, like, and during that time, like, I was really lucky when my partner and I split up, not my current partner, but years ago. It was a really tough time in my life, and a really good friend of mine who's an incredible DJ and musician and music lover. He's got like 10,000 LPs or something in his house, and he was like, dude, here's the thing. You need to be playing music out and about because you love it and you need to do it, and you need to be doing your yoga. Don't stop. Because otherwise you're going to be either in depression if you don't continue with your art, or if you continue with your art and you don't keep up with your spirituality, you're just going to turn into a drunk asshole. And it was like the most clear, simple, poignant advice. It was amazing. It was just like, make art and do your meditation.
So a bit of structure and an outlet for your creative expression.
Totally. Yep. And that's really isn't that the, what do you call it? Equation or the recipe?
It's freedom formula.
Yeah, it's the formula. That's the word. I'm like, recipe. Yeah, sequence, formula. That's what it is.
And I think it's really the formula we are practicing here at the Dharma Temple. I mean, it may not always come out like that, but we have the asana, we have the kriya, we have the meditation, but all we talk about is being you and finding out what that is. So I really feel that that's such an essence of what we're doing here.
Totally. There's Elizabeth here on the Instagram. I thought we'd share this to the people listening on iTunes. She said, I feel like that a lot. I find myself thinking about what others want to see rather than what I want to post. And that's a great little thank you for that, Elizabeth. We really appreciate you joining the conversation. it's the idea of playing to the crowd. You know, I heard David Bowie say that his only regret in life was that he ever did that, made records that he thought the fans wanted to hear. And those were the worst records. Because it's not you. It's based on a false pretense. Oh, well, everybody out there, whoever they are, wants to hear this, so I'll make a record for these imaginary people. How can you make a record for imaginary people? Why don't you just make a record that you want to make, and then if people like it, it's great, and they'll feel the authenticity of it.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, you're chasing the respect, you're chasing the likes, the follows, the subscribers, this social media world, and it really can cripple you after a while because you forgot who you are.
Right. And you look at being yourself as service. Like, the world needs you to show up as the best version of you. Because the best version of everybody is not the one who's inflicting pain on others because they're in pain. The best version of you is not the one who thinks that they don't have anything valuable to share. The best version of you is not, it's none of those things. The best version of you is not the one going, I'm too busy. Like, the best version of you is the one going, all right, let's do this. Let's make this. Let's, here's what we have to say. And I find that, talking to Elizabeth's comment here and anybody who's listening to this, like, when I write the morning prayer, the prayers that get the most likes on Instagram, to use this as an analogy, are usually the ones when I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I don't even feel like practicing this morning, and I probably don't have anything worthwhile to share. And then all of a sudden, it just comes flowing through. And you can feel that moment in time, where this is where willpower comes in, because willpower comes and goes easily in the flash of an eye. You feel that moment of, maybe I just won't do it. And you have that moment to go, I'm just going to start writing. Or you have that moment to go, fuck it, I'm not doing it. And we all feel that, And that's where, again, it comes back to your commitment will reveal the true you. The commitment will reveal the artist in you. It's like, I don't have anything to say. I don't know why I'm even doing this. Just start writing. If it's a 2 out of 10, who cares? If you just start.
That's right, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. People have to see social media as this form of self-censorship that's come about, that you're afraid to say something, or you're just not certain if it can go out or if it represents the image you want. I mean, it's a dangerous thing that's coming about in society. If you're going to go with that, I'm not going to say there's anything necessarily wrong with that, especially if you're doing anything business related and you have a brand per se. But I think then you need to find another outlet and look at Instagram or social media as something that's not necessarily you, that doesn't define you. It isn't, you aren't your post. You aren't your greatest liked post, and you should not identify with that. And you aren't your worst post either. You're really much bigger than that.
Yeah,
you have to see it in a much bigger perspective. It's a dangerous, narrow perspective to see and connect with your social engagement.
Totally. And I'm you had asked about this concept of breaking rules, and I'm all about that, for exactly the reason we're talking about right now, and that is, the only rule should be, does this support me to reveal the best version of myself, which is why we call this revealing the diamond. That's the only rule, and I spoke about it in this morning's prayer about these three. When I sit for tea with, and I might have talked about this in the previous podcast, but when I sit for tea with SJ, I hold the cup of tea at my heart, and I think to myself, first of all, I think, bless the teacher within me, the master, the Buddha, the first jewel. And I look at myself as the Buddha and the leader, and then I drink the tea. And then on the next cup of tea, I hold the tea at my heart. And then I say, thank you for this opportunity in my life to be a teacher, which is my dharma. And I say a blessing about, how grateful I am to be able to live this part of my life. And then I drink the tea. And this is all in silence. And then she pours another cup of tea, and then I hold the tea at my heart, and then I think of the Sangit, the community of people here, on Instagram, who are listening to this podcast, everybody, I mean, that is connected to me in any way, like, and I just like bless them, and I give thanks for the opportunity to serve them. And then I was talking about it today, like, you can apply those 3 principles, like those 3 cups of tea or those 3 jewels, to everything you do. It's like, does this serve the teacher, like the best version? When I say the teacher or the master or whatever language you like, it's like the very best version of you, like when you are walking in your grace, like the Hollywood movie version of yourself, whatever makes sense to you, like the master. I mean, there's so many ways. I like that. I like the old, like, master in the Taoist times, walking in beautiful robes and is in nature, but has no problem going to like the worst bar in town and still carries himself like that. Like, he's not above anything, but he's also just carrying himself with this nobility. I love that, So you start asking yourself, does this practice that I'm doing, this worrying that I'm doing, this activity that I'm doing, this music that I'm listening to, like, beyond the rules, but to say, like, does this bring out the best version of me? And then the other question is, does this relate to my purpose in this life? Without buying into like, oh, well, you're the Kundalini yoga teacher, so you have to do this because those are the rules. That it's like, if they don't support that, then I gave the Saturn finger, which is the middle finger, if you're listening on iTunes. But, and then the last one is, does this support me to serve the world? Does this support me to show up and serve? And if it only relates to one of them, find a way to do your practices that relate to all 3. And if it doesn't relate to any of them, don't do it. Like, that was my relationship with alcohol. It doesn't relate to any of those. It wasn't allowing me to show up and serve fully. It wasn't allowing me to live my purpose fully. And it wasn't allowing me to show up as the master. So, bye, And I think that's a great way to look at your life. And creativity is a massive part of that. It's like, creativity applies to all of those things. When you're in community with people who love to like talk about ideas or make cool things or like see the world in a different way, or it's like, I listen to all kinds of different music and podcasts of different genres and all sorts of things that inspire me to show up and make the world a more bright or interesting place. I also do practices that support me to be a better teacher. And then when things come up, as time goes by, I realize, oh yeah, this is in alignment. Oh, this is in alignment. Oh, this is in alignment. And rules don't apply. There aren't any room for rules. It's just me navigating my destiny, But I had to sort of try and fit myself into a few boxes over time to go like, oh, this works, this doesn't, this works, this doesn't. And eventually you just go, I know what I'm doing here.
I hope it's coming through that creativity isn't the stroke of a brush. It's a mentality. It's a way to think and act in life.
Yeah.
It's almost like a childlike nature.
Yeah.
Where you're not trying to fit things with check marks and making sure it's, as we're saying, under the rules. It's almost without restriction, without bounds. And I think it can be applied to anything.
Oh, yeah. It's really about the way that I would talk about it is openness. We've spoken about that with regards to the chakras. Like, creativity has such a huge part of that, where you limit yourself when you only want to see things a certain way. And that doesn't mean that you become wishy-washy. Like, there are some things that don't serve you. Like, I know that I can't drink alcohol. I also know that it's the best choice to eat a plant-based diet. Openness, and I've experimented with other things. Openness means that you go, okay, well, these are the things that really work for me. So those things aren't up for negotiation. But like, what kind of art I take in and what kind of music I take in and what kind of study I do, like, I want to look into it all and find out exactly, like, what is my relationship to this in everything. If you just start doing the same thing all the time because that's the way it is, you get such a limited scope on what's available to you in this life. And there's so much. Like, just think about there's 7.7 billion people in the world. That's insane. And some of those people are living in places that have these like closed-minded mentalities that are keeping them from living a creative, healthy, happy lifestyle. And some of those people are the ones inflicting that pain and suffering onto other people. And as soon as you start to bring education in, as soon as you start to bring music in, as soon as you start to bring art in, as soon as you get people connecting on like growing their own food, people get open. And as soon as you start saying, this is the only way, this is the only God, this is the one good gender, this is the, you limit yourself and you turn this world into this very small, meaningless place where only certain people get to experience some false sense of happiness. And it should be available to all of us. And that means that's why you meet a lot of artists who want to take down the borders. And you meet a lot, we don't need to separate ourselves anymore. And it may seem like, yeah, but what about? It's just like, it's got to go. And we need to start doing this practice of elevation, looking at the things that connect us. And those things, you're going to have to be very creative about that, because there are some people in this world who don't want to let go. There are some bullies on the playground who don't want to knock it off, and they're not going to surrender quietly. And it's up to us to find a creative way to get enough people to create a tipping point on the planet to go, we want to live in a world that's really colorful. We want to live in a world where people are free to express themselves. We want to live in, that's how I want Marley to grow up. I don't want for a second her to feel like, oh, I couldn't try out for that play because I'm not good enough at acting, or I couldn't, go out for this sports team because I'm a girl, or I couldn't decide to practice this religion because it's against the law, or you know what I mean, or God forbid, I can't even leave my house because it's not safe. And I think the more we really say, we're going to show up, we're going to make this world colorful and bright, and we're going to not be controlled by the media. I post a thing from Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys. If you don't know who Jello Biafra is, people who are listening to this, he is one of the most inspiring people. Some things he says are going to piss you off, but that's a good thing, It's shake you up and make you think. And he said, become the media. You be the media. Don't be afraid of it. Don't sit around, oh, the government and the media, oh, I'm so afraid. It takes a real strong, eclectic, artistic person to be like, I ain't getting in line. For what? What's the line for? And that's the times we're living now. Or if you look at what happened in Nazi Germany, the people who were just like, oh, well, if I just kind of keep to myself and don't bother anybody too much, then we'll be okay. And then they spend the rest of their lives feeling this intense regret because that was wrong, And it's going to require some guts. And I just want to say, to all the people who are from the gay and lesbian and transgendered community, for all of the problems that you've had to deal with people who are closed-minded, we need you to lead the way during this time. For all the people who have been experienced prejudice because of the color of their skin, we need you to lead the way through this time. For all the people who've been faced prejudice or oppression because of their gender, we need you to, and that's what's happening, and it's all right there, and it's going to require us all to show up and not buy into this sort of yep, color in the lines, and this is the way you have to do it, and the government said, and it's just no, let's paint the world in bright colors and be free and be bold and elevate each other to do that. And the people who want to just sort of stay in their box in their gray monotone existence, eventually they're just going to wake up, because you can't deny it any longer, and And I think that, and we've talked about this before, a great way to do it when you're feeling overwhelmed is commit to being creative every day. Just be like, what have you said that you always wanted to do? You want to learn to play guitar? You wanted to write that book? You wanted to, it's just like, do it. Set the ball in motion. You're helping the collective consciousness by doing that. And if you're sitting around going, I'm too busy, and working at a job that you hate, and in a relationship that's just not working, and whatever it is, and you're just going through the motions because it's comfortable, stop it. Like, light a fire under yourself and get going. And if you're like, it's too much, I don't know where to start, go to Kundalini Yoga. There's a good soapbox for you there.
It's such an important topic. It's easy to overlook creativity as something that's just for artists, and that for people, they put artists in a separate box outside of themselves. Every human is an artist. I don't care if you've ever painted, if you've ever sang, if you've ever made a picture. It's the nature of the human being to be artistic. Your truth is your art. I don't think people often miss that one, and it took me a long time to see that, but it's just like, who you are in its truest form is your art. And I just feel that at this time in the world, 2017, it's never been a better time to go back and figure that out. If you were 6 or 7 and your grandma told you that artists don't make money, so forget about it, you need to go back and you need to remove that blockage, because I know there's people out there that are holding on to that idea, and
Right.
they thought they would never make any money with it, so they just turned it off.
Right.
And they were afraid, and
Yeah.
I understand that. I have major empathy for that moment in your life. But if you can go back to that childhood time where you truly loved something or you felt expressive in some way, you will reconnect to your purpose, that second jewel you were talking about. And if you can bring that back, you will feel a lot lighter than you may feel today. And if you've repressed this idea of creativity, you do need to take a strong look at this, because this is going to really bring you to that lightness, that freeing feeling, that happiness that maybe you've been searching for and you just haven't been able to find.
Totally. And we've talked quite a bit in this podcast about sadhana, and we've shared some of the techniques that you can do, such as meditation practices. I just want to be clear here that creative practices are a part of that. I've got all kinds of students that we work with one-on-one who they go like, they're working on the mantras, Aquarian sadhana mantras, or different practices in the morning. And then they're like, I'm finding it difficult to commit to doing some of my creative practices because I'm doing all these things in the morning. It's like, then do them while you chant. Or why don't you wake up in the morning and paint for half an hour? Or why don't, it's like, what? I can do that? It's like, please do that. It's like, we have this like Judeo-Christian Western mentality where it's like, you better follow those rules, and if you don't, you're going to a very warm and fiery place for eternity. And it's still ingrained in like, it means get up and do something for you that's really going to serve you. Well, what about like getting up late and just going for a croissant? That's really going to serve me. Okay, is it? Apply it to those 3 things that we just said. Is it allowing you to show up as the best version of yourself? Is it allowing you to live fully in your purpose? And is it making it so that you can show up and serve? I'm not going to answer that question. You have to answer that question.
That's right. I do have a strong sense this episode's going to rattle a few cages. I definitely think the majority have tuned out a lot of these ideas. That's just the nature of what we're kind of working with these days. It's not a problem. It's not even a problem. But I just hope this episode does light that fire a little bit, to be you, to discover that, to align yourself, whatever that might mean for you. I mean, it's going to be different for everyone. So it's not like a blanket solution. But at the same time, it is. If we can all turn to some aspect of creativity, even the tiniest amount, I feel is going to be such a powerful thing for anyone's life. I talk with a lot of people day to day who want to be entrepreneurial, who want to step into this new world of content creation, whether it be videos, photography, podcasts. There's nothing more amazing than finally getting your voice heard or your work seen, but you have to do so in a way that you're not doing it for respect. You're not doing it for money necessarily. The practice has to start before that.
Totally.
You know, you can't go into it with expectations. That's not the creative way. It's a way of being. Doing the dishes can be a creative act. It's how you approach life. It's how you approach your day-to-day activities.
Yeah, and learning to manage your energy in a way where you are constantly, even your, like you said, your daily activities are opportunities to let the true best version of yourself shine through. Like, I wash my dishes to Guru Singh podcast. I'm like, okay, everybody out of the kitchen, or if I love listening to loud music, especially when I'm allowed to turn it up in my house. And like, I love that. Cleaning my house, turn up some really loud, like inspiring, in your face, independent, be free, punk rock music. Like, I love that. And then when I'm here, like, I love doing the chanting and the meditation. When I'm with people, I show up and I try and be the best listener that I can. Like, I show up in every moment of my life as the teacher, living my purpose, trying to serve. And as I do that more and more, it just becomes who I am. I'm just like being the best version of me. And I think it does take a little bit of time at first to get used to, some new patterns, because you have old patterns that are harmful, like you still, I mean, there's all kinds of things, like even look at diet. How easy is it to get caught up in a diet where you're just like going through the motions, or this is what I always eat, or I always eat out, or and where it's like, you could just get like really creative about food and find out about like living foods that are really going to keep your body healthy, and get excited and enthusiastic about it and learn new things. And then all of a sudden you're so excited about having these meals and sharing the time with your family, making them, and that you're like contributing to a healthier planet because of it. And I mean, isn't that an amazing thing? Like, isn't that what you want to do? Like, make more time for your family, make an impact on the planet, and eat delicious food that's, going to keep you alive longer so you don't die from a heart attack. I mean, that's something worth getting creative about, isn't it? Like, would you rather just kind of like, whatever, who cares? Doesn't matter to me if I spend that much time with my family, or I'm just too busy, or whatever the trip is. It's like, get inspired. It's not hard. You can do it. Yogi Bhajan used to say, start and the pressure will be off. You just have to start. It's like, okay, we're going to start eating at home more. I heard about this thing called the Instant Pot. Tiago Prem talks about it all the time. I'm going to get one. I'm going to direct message him and see if he can give me a vegan recipe, because I'm thinking about cutting meat out of my diet. And then you started and you watch, it will start to take effect. But if you just think in your head, I wouldn't be able to do that because yada, 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 and then you feel bad about yourself because of that, and then you're falling into this realm where things are just getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, where what we want is more open, brighter, more open, brighter. Do the practices that open you up. Keep your mind open all the time. It's like, oh, I was thinking about going to see this show. Like, it's kind of a weird band. I don't know if you would like it because you have to get up early. Sure, let's go. And then be like, why do you like it? What is so interesting about this to you? And like really ask sincere, open questions of the person. It's amazing. You learn all of these things. You get to spend time with the community, and you keep yourself open without compromising some of your spiritual practices that allow you to show up and do that.
And there's definitely going to be some of you who are surrounded by some that aren't thinking this way.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, you're always going to be surrounded by people who are not thinking that way.
And what I wanted to say is that if you don't know necessarily your creative nature, if you don't know what that really means, just get out and do something different. Like, get to a free class of some kind. Go be terrible at painting, or go be terrible in a singing class or a cooking class, just to get around other people who are exploring.
Yeah.
Let that community aspect guide you into what it's like to be creative. Like, your group of friends is certainly going to define how you see some of these things. And
Big
if you
time.
get some sensitivity around this, some awareness that maybe my friends are a little bit more closed than perhaps what would serve me,
Yeah.
that's just another part of the practice, is creating the environment that you need to be
Fully.
the best you.
And that's why the third jewel is the Sangit. You know, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are they supporting you to be creative, to be the best version of yourself, to live your purpose, to serve? If they're not, you need new friends,
It's a tough one.
you know?
But do you want to just go through the motions? Do you want to accept the mediocre life?
Yeah, no, you don't. The answer is no, you don't. Be the lighthouse and elevate them. That's from SJ. Yeah. You know, it's like, I found, I can talk to you about it from a place of recovery. Like, the big scary thing for people who want to, like, stop drinking is like, okay, yeah, I want to stop drinking, but, like, what will everybody think? You know? And I'll tell you what they'll think. If you keep up with it and you don't keep going back and flip-flopping, if you keep up with it and you're like, yeah, I'm good. And if you need, like, 3-4 months where you're like, don't go out, and you just, like, buckle down, you might need that. But if you can get to a place where you're just, like, really open with people and vulnerable, SJ made a great comment before about vulnerability. That's a huge part of this. And you just say, look, like, I'm really struggling with my drinking. I love you guys. I love the music. I love the scene. I love doing all this stuff. But I really need to take care of myself right now, and so I'm not drinking. And if you stay steady in that, people are going to think you are incredible. They will. Like, that's what happens to me. People are like, oh, it's so cool that you do. Like, I can't believe that you can do that, and that you can go to the show and stay sober, and you can, you know, like, still do the things you love. And it's like, it's not as easy as just flicking a switch. But what I found is, in the past, when I failed at it, it's when I'm like, don't let anybody know that I'm doing this. I'm going to do this on my own. That doesn't work. If you try and, like, just carry the weight on your own, it won't work. You need the support of the Sangit, even if it's one person. You know, even if it's one person who you're like, if I'm struggling, can I count on you to give you a call or check in and make sure I'm all right? Like, you're good to go. Like, we're hardwired for that, you know? And you'll find that if you get going on that, people will just want to be around you all the time. Even the people who are drinking, like, it's like, oh, I love that guy. He's just, like, so energetic, and he doesn't drink or do drugs, and it's amazing. And then you are being the forklift. You're out there meeting people where they're at, and you're elevating them. You could do it. Sure, why not? If you want, you're not out pointing the finger and saying, you know, you should really not do that, because it's not that. You just show up, and as SJ said in the comment there, you be the lighthouse. It's like, oh, wow, look at how happy they are. And are you going to have haters when you're happy? Yeah, there's going to be people who are like, oh, it's such bullshit, and I'm never going to do that. And you're going to face tons of that. But you have to ask yourself, do you want to be there? Taking everybody down? Getting caught up in the gossip? Getting caught up in the whirlwind? Or do you want to be the outstanding one, the eccentric one, the one who's like, I know this doesn't really make sense to anybody, but I'm just going to do it this way, and I don't care who's watching, you know? And not doing it from a place of, like, I want to be better than other people, but just, this is me. And if you don't like it, well, there's nothing I can do, because I have to live this way, you know? And so whether I wear a turban, or whether I wear my hair down, or whether I go to the punk show, or whether I go to the temple, or whether I go to the dive bar, or whether I go to the, you know, kids play area, or whether I go to IKEA, or wherever you go, you show up as this radiant, creative, eclectic, one-of-a-kind version of you, and just carry yourself through the world like that, and you will inspire people everywhere you go. And that's what the world needs now. They don't need to be taken down. They don't need to be told a bunch of rules or belief systems. They don't need to be told that they're wrong. They don't need to be told that different is bad. We don't need that. We've had enough of that. We need a world where the people around you are going like, go for it. Do that thing. Write that book. Sing that song. Wear crazy clothes. Oh, you have a beard and you want to wear a dress? Amazing. Wear a dress. That's so cool. Do it. Go for it all the way. I love the color of your skin. It's so amazing. Look at the color of my skin. Let's all just get along and work together to make this place the way it's supposed to be. Not tied down, but free. And that means that there has to be, in order for us to sustain that, there has to be a little bit of structure. When we're feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Oh, maybe we are doomed. Maybe Trump is going to blow up the world. I mean, yeah, sure, these are all things that we have to face, but we got to go beyond that. We can't just sit down and get stuck there. You look at the impact that the Beatles had on the world. Why did they have that impact on the world? Because they write good pop songs? It's part of it. But why is the other reason? There's a spiritual component to the music. Why do people speak about the Beatles differently than they speak about Elvis? And I love Elvis, by the way. Because there's a spiritual component. And now we live in a time where it's all right there in front of us. We get it. Time magazine is telling us that turns out meditation is actually good for your health. It's like, we already knew that. Now the mainstream knows it. So what are we going to do with that? And we have all these amazing tools to be the artist and be the filmmaker and be the guys who made Cowspiracy and What the Health. I mean, those are creative endeavors to make an impact on the planet, where it's like, hey, you might want to look at what you're eating. Your family could live longer. People could be happier, healthier. We could take care of each other a little better, and it's all right in your hands. Go out and do it.
If you guys missed that, What the Health, such a great documentary. I watched it 2 weeks ago. Been sharing it with everyone I can. It's definitely an eye-opener. I hope everyone does watch that. Thanks for mentioning that, Tiago Prem. We're at 55 minutes. I think it's about time to wrap this one up. Last thoughts on elevation and creation.
Yeah, I just want to encourage everybody out there, if you're looking at, some of the things you hear about here, or you're thinking how can I share these spiritual practices, or what is yoga, or you're starting to look deeply into these things, and I want you to make a promise to me, and that is to look at all of the old systems for what they are, and we're really thankful for them and the way that they've been passed down. But I want you to remember that those are just the structure of a system that's designed to bring out the best version of you. And in order to do that, you have to sort of color outside the lines a little bit as you go, without completely abandoning it, because you may get stuck in the same patterns. But remember that these things are here to make you free, and they're here to help you serve. That's what they're for. And if you're doing a practice and you're like, I feel really constricted and confined, and I really feel like I can't be myself doing this, then stop it, And if you're noticing that the practice is allowing you to do that, then do it. But play outside of the rules. Make your own rules and be really honest with yourself. Just like Bob Dylan said, one of my favorite quotes is, if you want to live outside the law, you have to be honest. And that's this path. This is the Aquarian path that we're on. And all this work that we're doing now is so that we can see the beauty in the world. Because the world needs us to do that. The world needs people around going, yeah, I know it looks bleak, but guess what? And here's some things you could do so that together we can be there. And it doesn't matter what your belief systems are.
And I'd like to add that if you have a moment, just 30 seconds, maybe 5 minutes, just go back. 20 years to your childhood. Go back to when you were 5, 9, maybe it was 13, when you were in the moment, when you did something where everything else kind of turned off and you were just doing that without the fear of what people think of you, without worrying about likes and subscribers, without worrying. You just were being. And I challenge you to connect to that moment and see what was creative about that. And I just feel that's going to help you take it up a notch in your life.
Totally. And then live it, and then take it up a notch and keep it up a notch. And then go and meet everybody that you see and elevate them.
That's a wonderful way.
Because that's where we're headed.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another Conscious Conversation with Tiago Prem. Follow him on Instagram, TIAGAPREM. I'm at Richie New Rich. We're always there sharing interesting things for you guys. We're at the Dharma Temple. Check us out online, thedharmatemple.com. Our brick and mortars is on Main Street in Vancouver if you're just getting to know us. And just thanks for being here. Thanks for your presence. Don't forget to give us a rating on iTunes. That really helps out the podcast. I think we're about 3,000 downloads, which we're really excited about as we are coming to a close of the initial set of 17 episodes we designed for this Revealing the Diamond audio course, I guess you could call it. But as time goes on, we'll get a bit more into the freestyle, keeping up with the topics of the day, and just, continuing to help you reveal that diamond. More conscious conversations, more spiritual podcasts. And we're going to be going live from now on Mondays, 2:30 Pacific, just switching up the time, getting creative about it, seeing what we can do with that. And that's it for today, guys. Sat Nam.
Sat Nam.